good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I am Dave Valente. Thanks to all of us, all y'all joining from Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. Really appreciate joining us. If you're out there on Twitter, we don't see that, but appreciate it if you join us anyway. Anyway, tonight we are talking about drugs, the drug war, failed drug war, what to do, what not to do, and then we'll do our country feature, which is on Jamaica, because our co-host AJ was at a reggae fest this weekend, so we decided to do Jamaica as the feature country this week. And we'll talk about her adventures at Reggae Fest here in a moment. Also joining us is Dan, the Man Fishman.
I just want to say that I object to using Jamaica when we're talking about drugs as the country. Stereotyping my people.
We're using it not just as because we're talking about drugs, but because AJ did Reggae Fest this week.
Okay, fair.
You're a little low on your
all right, let me try.
Oh,
I can never tell which mic is. I can never tell which mic is which. Hang on.
Yeah, I think the one that the can mic is.
All right, hang on. Let me try.
Oh no, that didn't work. Can't even hear you. That was can. That didn't sound good. No.
Quality content.
Testes. Testes. 1, 2, 3.
Let me work on this.
There we go. I can hear that.
Okay.
That sounds better.
Yeah. Anyway, so AJ, tell us about your fun weekend at Reggae Fest.
Well, I don't know if y'all are aware of Tennessee's apparent tendency to have concerts in interesting venues. I have been 333 feet underground, but this weekend I was on the side of a mountain. Stonewood Bluff Amphitheater in Warren County, Tennessee, is literally on the side of a mountain, and it is a big stone arena with a stage and a campground and whatnot. It used to be a much larger organization, a restaurant called Pitch Lakai. They had lots of artists like George Jones was a big one when I was like 12 or 13 that came. I remember people being really excited. But this year, we have reggae, and they do it like once a year. Plainview Vibes. You can look them up on Spotify. I believe they are also on Apple Music. Um, Jeremy McMinn and I have known each other. Hey there. Since middle school. I remember being at the same group of 4 desks with him when the OJ verdict came down. That's how long we've known each other. Um, his band is a reggae band, and they organize a reggae fest there every year. Um, so I did that. I did my little 6-hour shift at the gate. Got to meet some very interesting characters as they came into the fest. And then Charlie had his art booth set up, of course. So we had that. I think there was 20 something bands that played Friday and Saturday.
Oh, hey, plug Charlie's art stuff.
Charlie is Art by Ash on Facebook. He does lots of different types of handmade art. He also does digital art. He does commissions are always open. And he can do pretty much anything personalized that you would like. I've seen him do people and pets and characters, different video game characters that I am now aging myself because I don't freaking know. But he can do a little bit of everything. He did pretty well. He had some stash boxes, which shockingly sold well at a reggae fest. Um, but he did very well. Let's see. I ran into some libertarians. Apparently, Keith McQuarrie had a libertarian tent up, and of course, I know him. Hey, um, he was set up at Reggae. He had his tent and everything, his libertarian literature, and the books, of course. Charlie, when he saw him, he was like, he's wearing Ron Paul. I was like, I bet he is. So he came by and visited a couple times, and one of those times he brought a man named Joseph Van Wagner. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes.
He is apparently the new Whiskey Region chair. Um, and he seemed kind of interested in meeting me, and Until my conversation right before the show with Valente, I did not realize why. I did not know who he is because my ass left Facebook, and that means I just kind of dropped everything. And that was on purpose. That was by design. But it also leaves me open to apparently running into meet these people and not knowing that, not knowing that they are like pretty involved, and not knowing who I'm talking to. I kind of like what I said even better. You know, it was
Yeah.
a question. Go ahead.
So Joe Van Wagner, for those who don't know, who may not be too deep into the Mises stuff, was in Pennsylvania and in the same kind of general vicinity of Michael Heiss, and uh, started doing their takeover tactics there locally in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and places around the Philadelphia area. Um, when when I was on the LNC and I put up a post, the first time they tried to censure or actually remove Karen Ann Harless from the position of secretary, I noted that if I had the vote, because I was only regional alternate, I didn't actually have the vote. If I had the vote, then I would have voted to remove her. And he sent me a long diatribe on Facebook Messenger, basically threatening me. And I, posted on Facebook as an open message and said, this is the kind of people attacking me. I don't really care, but if you do that, I'm gonna put you on blast. And you know, uh, not really impressed with Mr. Van Wagner. But oh, Dan, you got the flag is looking good, man.
Thank
I
you.
love the
Nice.
Jamaican flag.
Yay.
Um,
Another person that had the X before Elon. Just throwing that out there.
exactly.
An entire ass country had it before him. Go
That's
figure.
that's right, James. Nobody can threaten me.
Well,
I,
what's interesting actually is that that X is not even an original X. It's the X from X Windows, which is like for the super geeks out there, man, that's like old school X.
huh? Interesting.
Yes, it's Art by Ash on Facebook. Sorry. No, y'all, I sat there and had this whole conversation with him about everything because he was asking me, well, what kind of led you to leave the Libertarian Party? I was like, well, the Libertarians led me to leave the Libertarian Party. I said I had a successful fundraiser and some people had a problem with it. And he was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And Keith kind of laughed and he goes, what am I missing? And he was like, the Testicle Festival. And he was like, oh, that was you? That was me. That's my claim to fame. Fucking testicles. Mama be proud. Oh my
Yo,
God. Like my mom finds it hilarious. It is.
it is
My
hilarious.
my boss, God rest her soul, she would find it hilarious. She was the urologist that I worked for. She would have found this funny. But yeah, so that's the thing. And I told him, the whole story, and he was like, "Oh, well, I never thought that there was that big of a deal." And I know Mises was actually surprisingly supportive of the testicle festival thing. And I wasn't sure how to take that.
Yeah.
Um, but then he was like, what would it get to bring you back into the party? And I was like, a whole lot. Like so much would have to change. And he goes, well, maybe, just stay away from the groups. You say you're not on Facebook. That's probably for the best. And I'm like, yeah, I bet. Um, because I remember Facebook. It was awful. Like I don't want to go back. Um,
It's actually a lot better without you. No, I'm just kidding. Kidding.
No.
it is really,
Shots
it
fired.
is. Um, but he goes, you just have one issue. And I looked at him. He goes, like trans rights. And I'm like, so that's another story, but that broke the camel's back. Like I fought for trans rights. I fought for us to do phone banking. And I wasn't even fighting for us to do phone banking. It was brought to our attention by the state chair at the time that there was a phone banking opportunity fighting against Tennessee's legislature on future anti-trans bills, which, if anyone's paying attention, they have now been passing. So But my whole point was libertarians are against the government being involved in anyone's life. Doesn't matter if we agree with them or not, right? That's the whole thing.
Yep.
We don't agree with anyone being involved. We don't agree with the government getting a say in private citizens' lives. And I made that argument in XCOM, and I turned one person around, and everyone else said, "Oh, you're so left. You're so left." And I was like, you know what? You're right.
And you
So
left.
dumb.
It's
And
okay.
you left.
Hmm. And I did. I did a successful fundraiser that weekend in wherever the fuck it is, Tennessee, in East Tennessee for one of their events. Another successful fundraiser run by AJ Campbell, just saying, for Whiskey Region, selling whiskey under the table, literally for like $5 a shot in the little souffle glasses. It's brilliant, right?
Yeah.
And then I resigned at the meeting 12 hours later because
There you
no,
go.
I'm not going
Caught
to be
on
laughed at
top.
XCOM for standing up for my family.
Yeah.
But yeah, he said, "Well, maybe you can look up the libertarians in Colorado." And I was like, "They already have a Statue of Liberty. They don't need another one. They're full."
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
But
you.
Reggae Fest was cool. I mean, it was nice. It's a great community that everybody pitches together. Nobody goes thirsty. Nobody goes hungry. The barefoot people are offered shade. Like it's just it's amazing. It's always a good time. The bands are always top notch. You can look them up on Spotify. It was Reggae at Stonewood if you want to look up any of these events that I'm talking about. We did have like some extreme temperatures in Tennessee. The heat index was like 110, and then we had a big pop up storm that was like there because we're on the side of a mountain.
Well,
But
I know you and Dan both had storms of the century this weekend. Dan, you had one hit you there in Maryland and knocked down some trees, right? Oh, you're silent again.
I muted myself. Um, yeah, no, it was crazy. I suppose if I had been prepared, I could have shared the pictures, but I have two massive trees. So one, uh, about approximately 120-foot poplar came down across the driveway, and in the process, it took down an 80-foot maple. So both of them are completely across the driveway, and the poplar at its thickest spot is actually thicker than 20 inches, which is the size of my largest chainsaw. So I am studying how to cut a tree bigger than your chainsaw blade. But let me make a little PSA here that among the most dangerous things you can do, and it has been a weekend of dangerous shit for me. Um, but among the most dangerous things that you can do is to cut limbs off of a fallen tree because those are under incredible tension.
Oh yeah.
And what they really want to do is you're cutting it and you don't realize that this end is pinned down and you cut through and the wood is weak. Then it wants to kick the blade up and make it come back and cut your head in half. So don't do that. Be very, very smart and execute extreme caution when cutting wood under tension. And as tempting as it is to go for the big cut because it saves you time, start from the top of the tree, buck it up, and then cut off little 8-foot chunks along the way. And that's the safest way to do it. And so that's what I'm doing. It's taking me longer, but if you are, uh, there's somebody out there who depends upon you. And I'm trying to speak to a lot of the people like me who may not be as careful as we should be with our lives, but we'd make a lot of other people sad if we did something stupid and lost it. So please be careful using chainsaws and operating them.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm up to.
and doing roofing in
Right.
hot
That
as
was also stupid. Right.
wait,
Saturday
are
was
you
pretty
okay?
stupid too.
Because I can't actually see all of you. Like, are you okay?
Yeah. No,
You said
I'm
there were
okay.
lots of dates. Like all bits of you are okay. There's no like
All
toes
bits of
missing
me
or
are
anything.
okay. I
Okay.
stopped. I stopped. Well, so that was the thing. Is that Saturday I actually also I worked to exhaustion. So it's funny. I'd made a post for the people who are on Facebook that I had to turn in my nerd card on Friday because I didn't have a coaxial cable to or a Cat 5 cable to connect to my computer. However, I feel like I have doubled down on my hard worker card because Saturday I was roofing up on a ladder on a 60-degree pitch, hammering in shingles. And that was like, I went too long then, but I wanted to finish it. And so at one point, like, I knew I was exhausted, but I was 9 nails away from finishing. And so I went and sat in the shade and drank water. Said, okay, take a 15-minute break and then go back and finish those 9 nails. And I did that. Today, like at the end, I started getting cramps in my forearms. And I'd been at it for like 5 hours. And I was just like, you're done. You're done. You have nothing left at this point. Because I mean, the thing about it is that it's not just cutting. You have to cut the things down, and then based on where they are, you have to haul them out. So I had to chain them up to the truck, drive them up to the house, unchain them, all that stuff. It was a real pain in the ass. And I'm not done, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to do it tomorrow. But I think I have a meeting tomorrow from 9 to 10. But I think from 10 to 1 I can probably finish. But my other thing about it is I'm very happy that I have plenty of gas for the chainsaw in the house, so that I don't have to worry about running out of gas and not being able to get down the driveway, because I can't get out of the driveway. I am
Oh wow! So
unable
you're
to leave
completely
the house
locked
at
in.
this point in time. Yeah, so it's got to get done. And actually, even when I'm done, it won't be perfect, because there's one stretch that is like just it's way too big for my saw, and so I'm just going to leave it like 3 foot into the driveway, and we'll just drive around it for now. But
Yeah.
I'll have to figure out what the hell I'm going to do with that.
Mm,
Hmm.
wow.
Very exciting. But the weather was astonishing. I posted that video. AJ, I will just send it to you because it's a pretty cool video.
Hey, I have Instagram. You could post to Instagram. You have an Instagram. I just tagged you in Instagram, actually, sir.
Interesting.
Um,
Doesn't If I post to Facebook, doesn't it automatically go to Instagram?
No,
not
you have to. You
always.
have
I
to.
think you have to do it the opposite way.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Usually it's Instagram to Facebook.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I will share this movie of the storm on
All
Instagram.
right.
It's pretty cool.
Thank you very much.
You
Cool.
bet.
Cool.
Just for
Yeah.
me. And post his Instagram just for me. Did y'all hear that?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Noise. All right. So we're talking about drugs this week, and I know we've covered drugs in the past on various stories, and we've actually done episodes on cannabis and things like that. Um, I think this week we kind of need to look at both on a holistic level of what works and what doesn't work when it comes to decriminalization of drugs, legalization of drugs, putting it into selling the government selling drugs now. Um, I think there are some places where it's what they've been doing with drugs is working, and I think that some places where they've done some liberalization with drugs is not working. And I think we need to look at both of those and see why they're not why one's working, one isn't working. Um, yeah, I would say where it is working is in Portugal. I think Portugal has set the standard of what to do with just decriminalization. They still don't sell drugs. They don't allow the sale of drugs in Portugal. But what they do is they've taken drugs from being a health or from being a crime and punishment issue to being a health issue. If you are in Portugal and you are caught with drugs, it doesn't matter what drug it is. Um, what you're done, what happens is you go before a sociologist, a counselor, and they give you counseling. They say, hey, here are the resources available to you. Would you like to seek treatment for your addiction? For some of the lower level stuff like, hashish or cannabis, they may not, seek treatment, but for things like heroin and things like, fentanyl and opiates, there's resources available for them to seek treatment. And by treating it as a treatment and a healthcare issue, um, they've gone from almost a full percent of their population being addicted to heavy drugs to half of that within 10 years. And from several hundred overdose deaths a year to less than 30. So you're seeing harm reduction. You're seeing people getting clean. You're seeing how using it as a healthcare issue rather than a crime and punishment issue works. Where I'll put out that it doesn't work is what they've done in Oregon, where they've decriminalized all the drugs, but there is no healthcare component to it. It's just, we're just decriminalizing drugs, which sounds good, but what happens when people are addicted and can't get out? And we're seeing a lot of people, we're seeing Oregon really kind of bucking against the trend of legalization of narcotics. The public there are really against the idea now, even though they legalized, like fewer than 2 years ago. It's they're seeing crime increase. They're seeing people laying about on the streets that are messed up, and they're of course the issues with homelessness and all that stuff is still going there. But what we're seeing in Oregon is not working because they don't have a healthcare component to it. There's
I
no
agree with that.
there's no means for them to seek treatment if they want it. And I think that's where we talk about, hey, there are cost savings to what goes into the drug war. If you legalize, if you decriminalize, there's cost savings. But where I would say is the cost savings should be applied to something like healthcare, to treatment, to harm reduction, things like that. We're not seeing that in Oregon. Um,
That would be an easy thing to do, to say too, just to say, okay, since we're not going to be having to arrest all the money that we're spending on officers who were making these arrests, let's put that uh, into treatment.
yeah,
Now, I mean, it is an interesting dilemma because the the burden isn't as the cost burden isn't necessarily as transparent to everybody. Like you see, oh, I'm spending money on police officers, you know what you're getting. People don't necessarily see how I'm spending money on care. They can't see what it does, but they have to understand that that's where the real benefit is.
well, you can also say, well, look at downtown Portland, and you don't have strung out users who can't find work, can't find homes, the crime, shoplifting and things like that, where it feels like the police have just, I think, as a response to what Oregon has done, has kind of given up on enforcing crime, especially the low level stuff, and which is completely the wrong message. A crime is, the crime of property, a crime of, where there is harm, should be prosecuted, should be enforced. Um, and what we're seeing is things like shoplifting, things like property crime, breaking and entering, things like that. Those aren't being enforced either. And while I'm not a super fan of police enforcing crimes, when it comes to things like that bring harm, violent crime, I am fully in favor of enforcing that.
I do wonder, without them having the healthcare option there. I mean, healthcare is a business in America. It's a very profitable business in America. Um, but also, if they arrest these people and they do have a drug problem, then they are also going to be in charge of detoxing and the cost associated with having them in the jail. I worked as a correctional nurse, and a lot of my job was detoxing. I would come in on the weekends and have to do a special med pass just for the detox that had come in, on Friday nights.
Yep.
That was really, really common. And I mean, yeah, it does cost. It costs quite a bit. But if there's no stability at all, and this may just be very naive of me, but most people, I shouldn't say that. I would think the majority of people that are breaking and entering and are shoplifting are also the more desperate. of the population. If you do have an addiction and it is something that absolutely has to be fed, and you have no other stability in your life and you are that desperate, then you are going to be doing that. Uh, It sounds like they've given up. They started with a shitty plan and then saw it didn't work. And instead of like tweaking and fixing things here and there, they were just like, you know what? Let's let this burn. I
Yeah,
mean, how sad is that?
It's
I
sad.
mean, it's a way to affect public policy
Mm,
because
just
you get
terrible.
the the normies, quote unquote, mad that that Portland has turned into an absolute mess, and some of these other cities within Oregon have turned into an absolute mess. Um, and now people are going to, some people who are going to advocate for keeping the legalization or criminalization are going to make these points, and all the people who are against decriminalization and want, law and order and all that crap, all they're going to see is the money that's going to be spent on, because they're going to say we need treatment, we need services, we need job skills and things like that for when they get clean. They need job skills to get a job so they can get out in the economy. Um, that all they're going to see is the money allocated to that, and that's going to be their political bashing point. Is, oh, you want us to spend more money? You want us to defund the police, but you want us to spend more money on all of this stuff. Yeah, Oregon did just a bad job of thinking this through.
The other thing about it too is that I think a lot of people don't understand the costs that we actually pay from the existing drug problem.
Yeah,
It's interesting. We are veterans issues are in the news right now, and I've talked a little bit about some more. The Korean War veterans are leaving us now. There are very few left, and they have these issues. Dave probably knows this better than any of us. Sometimes called the Invisible War. People know
yeah,
World War II, and they know Korean war vets don't really have much. They didn't have access to the services. They came home, nobody cared. But vets, God, where the hell was I going? Vietnam. Oh, so the death toll from in any state that you're in, the death toll last year from opiate deaths was higher than your state's entire death toll in Vietnam because it's an overwhelming catastrophe. And fixing that part of it, I mean, aside from the cost and all these other things about it, if you can stop these people from dying, that's an amazing thing. Why wouldn't you want to save life? And so it's an interesting thing. I personally believe that everybody should control their own reproductive rights. I should control mine. You should control yours. However, I'm also extremely pro life and that I want everybody to live and to enjoy their life. So, you know, control your own body and all that stuff. But if I can save a life by making a drug plan that works, making it so that people can seek treatment, then that's very important to me. I oppose the death penalty. I want to preserve people's lives. And there are some amazing videos out there. One, I wish I'd thought about it, I would have shared it up. But it shows a guy who was overdosing on heroin, driving way too fast down the highway. Cop pulls him over, and and the guy's almost unresponsive. He's like trying to talk to him, and then the guy sort of slips into a coma right in front of him, and you see the trooper drag him out of the car, uh, and trying to address him, and then there's no pulse, and there's no pulse. Chest compressions. That's what you got to do, and if you've ever had to do it, AJ's our expert on this, but CPR is exhausting. It
Hmm.
is so hard to do. And you see this trooper fight for this man's life. fights so hard, and he is exhausted. And at 9 minutes, you can see. And unfortunately, a doctor who just happens to be driving home, and I'm assuming he's a doctor because he's in scrubs, but he stops and he gets out of his car. He's like, "Let me take over," and he starts doing it. And then finally, somebody gets there with Narcan, but they kept the guy's heart going, which is the critical thing that you're doing in CPR.
Yeah.
You're putting oxygen in the system, moving it around, and they're able to revive him. But let's not make the fight be at that point where we want to save a life. Let's not make it the fight where we're having to save their life because they're unconscious. Let's fight right now to save their life by making treatment available and removing the stigma. And, there was a point in time, and so I thought we were going to get into this part about it a little bit more. I've done most drugs. I think you can. I haven't licked toads, no ayahuasca, but yeah, I smoked heroin once. I was interested to see what it was like. I've always been too afraid to shoot heroin. We had that conversation, I think, a year ago. But plenty of cannabis and mushrooms and acid and cocaine and all that stuff. A little speed, no crystal meth. I was really too old for crystal meth. Plenty of X though. But I always was able to do it in the situation that was like I was doing it to explore my limits, not because my life sucked and I was looking for an escape. And for a lot of people, though, that's where drugs come in. It's they're like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I can alleviate that pain. And it's worth talking about this part too. Uh, we all have a friend, and I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning this, uh, Kara Schultz, who is an advocate for the fact that there are plenty of people who have chronic pain, and opiates are the only thing that touch that.
Oh
Okay, there's
yeah.
nothing else out there. We can advocate for cannabis, but so those people are actually suffering from these restrictions on opiates.
Yep.
Uh, so finding people, allowing people to explore what works for them is an important thing. And then the last thing I want to say, talking about that, because the reason I brought up heroin is that, we used to have a society where a lot of people did opium and heroin in civilized society.
Oh yeah.
Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes, right? Famously, and those people were able to live with this issue. Now, I mean, is it the healthiest thing? Of course not. And there's all sorts of other stuff about it. IV drugs are obviously a disaster in
Yeah.
terms of the ability to transmit uh, things back and forth. But you know what? A lot of people are doing IV drugs because, you know, other things aren't necessarily available to them. I mean, heroin is what it is. But if we could, if we'd find a way to have more compassion in our drug policy and more understanding, and you know what? I'll say it too. A little bit of that understanding is don't talk about things that you don't know anything about. Okay. If you
Yeah.
don't know what it's like for somebody's life, and you don't know what drugs are like, you can't really tell them what to do. All you can say is that, you know what? If your life is fucked up, I don't want it to be fucked up. I want to provide some resources to make it better for you. But I can't understand what made you go down that path to begin with. Let me just offer the best solutions. I'm babbling.
Well, I
All
mean,
right.
no. What I would say is that, and I think me as somebody who's advocated for the legalization or decriminalization of drugs, I think we do a
You
disservice
said
by
doo doo.
do do
Sorry.
do a disservice by advocating just the decriminalization or just the legalization of
Right.
these things. We have to come up with policy that says not just decriminalization, but you have to address what goes on afterwards. Yeah, we have to advocate for healthcare. We have to advocate for harm reduction. Needle programs, things like that, because this stuff is out there. Legalization, you can start talking about the idea. You can have harm reduction in cleaning up the supply because there are so many drugs right now that are so spoiled by fentanyl and carfentanil that even the drugs that you got 30 years ago, which were generally not bad. I mean, you could get a bad trip off something, but now they're deadly because they've got fentanyl in them. They're cut with fentanyl. They're cut with carfentanil. Um,
Yeah.
and you're right, Dan. When we talk about opioids, they've been demonized so much. It was partly the fault. I mean, actually, mostly the fault of the pharmaceutical industry themselves and the doctors by
Yeah.
prescribing it for everything. Like, yes, it's a painkiller, but for your knee, there are other things out there that you can get to take care of your knee pain. Opioids were created for cancer, stage 4 cancer, especially to mitigate pain, maybe even in a palliative sense. Um, the exposure of opioids to the market um, has really caused the problem, and now we are criminalizing, in a sense, the cancer patients that actually need that medicine. They're put into a situation where they're having to beg for these medicines and be treated like criminals every time they go to fill their prescription, even though they're the ones who need this prescription, not the guy that hurt his knee at work, or the guy that has tennis elbow. The things that they were prescribing this stuff for is just ridiculous. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess the point I'm making is not just making the case for legalization, decriminalization, for the on the liberty aspect of, it's our body, we should be able to do what we want to with our body, but we also have to think about what the policy is going to do and the harm that it's going to bring, and how do you reduce that harm, and whether that harm is better than what is going on currently, which I do think that if you can do harm reduction on, or the harm reduction is better than what's going on currently. I do think that harm reduction is the way to go versus incarceration and putting people in the system to weed them out, and detox them that way. Because hell, we've seen prisons. They can't keep drugs out of prisons. They can't keep drugs out
Mhm.
of the most
Right.
secure environment.
Yep.
So
The only times I've used Narcan was in a correctional facility.
yeah,
That's when I've had to use the Narcan. So,
You
I
know,
mean, and I do want to butt in just a second. We
yeah,
did have Narcan and people trained to use it at the venue this weekend, because this community, they don't take any chances. Everyone looks out for each other. I mean, yes, it's a reggae thing, but there were kids, and we knew everybody's kids. Like your mom is this person, and da da da, and we all looked out for each other. If it can be done in a small environment like that, I mean, that is one thing that we discussed, is that kind of community where we all just kind of keep an eye out. Yeah. Why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we want more people trained that way? If we're going to talk about, decriminalization and legalization, the healthcare, that's going to be the major issue.
hmm
The healthcare and the stability afterwards, because anybody that I know that has beaten an addiction, found out what their actual fucking problem was, and got therapy for that,
yeah,
whether it was physical therapy or psychiatry, or they got a cat, or whatever it was, they figured out what it was that they needed. And the cat was what, literally, she needed somebody to live for. The cat fixed that. The cat depended on her. If she didn't come home to feed the cat, and that's all she needed, was something to come home to. And that helped her kick meth and changing her environment, because that's a huge thing, is you really do have to remove yourself from whatever environment put you there to begin with, whether it
yeah,
was friends that were, just a little too helpful, helping you find whatever it was you were looking for,
yeah,
or whatever. And as far as the government being involved with any of the scheduled drugs, they have really messed this up for a lot of people. There are people that are having to choose what they're going to treat. Are they going to medicate their constant nausea with the THC, or are they going to treat their nerve pain with gabapentin and not smoke the pot that helps with their nausea, so that they can get the gabapentin every month? Because they got to pass a drug screen to get that. Meanwhile, there's no dangerous interactions with those. Um, for that matter, if you have anxiety, But you also have, I don't know, chronic back pain. You have a back injury from 20 years of logging or whatever the fuck.
Yep.
Most people are having to choose, am I going to be treating my anxiety or am I going to be treating my chronic pain? And they shouldn't have to because there are ways to safely have these drugs, but the government says one or the other. Now, how fair is that?
Oh, think about
Not.
veterans
You know,
who have to who
100% think
use
about veterans. The
cannabis.
shit they will throw them on instead of
Oh my
giving them
God.
what works.
Yeah.
You
Eh,
you and I, oh gosh, we could have a
You know,
conversation.
uh, I I know somewhat a controversial figure, but I will say that I have a friendly relationship with Adam Kokesh. And one of the things that he advocates for is that veterans, for all that they've done, ought to be able to choose their own medical treatment. And
yes.
so if they think that Molly's going to help them, or psilocybin, or cannabis, or whatever, they have earned that right. And I think that's a very strong argument.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's earned the right to determine what goes in their body, whether they've served or not. I just
Yeah.
think that what we've done with veterans, and we've told veterans that, if you're a veteran who has PTSD, and there's shocking numbers of veterans who've returned from the Gulf Wars
Yep.
and Afghanistan with PTSD, um, that if you want to treat that, we're going to give you this cocktail of drugs that turns you essentially into a zombie. Or people are finding out that uh, using cannabis is fine, that it deals with some people's issues. Some people are using microdoses of psilocybin. That's helping them with their issues. Um, you know, but the VA is telling you that if you do that, then you're going to come into a conflict with their drug regimen and might lose treatment. And that, to
Which is
me,
so
that
crazy.
scares the hell out of that would scare the hell out of me
Mhm.
if I'm a veteran with PTSD and I'm being treated, told that if I do this, then I'm going to run into this, and you know, you're already dealing with mental issues because of combat, because of what you've seen. And I've read the stories, man. I know what I didn't experience myself, but I've read the stories that they use when they talk about why they have stressful interactions. And there's some shit there. And to tell them that, well, if you use cannabis on the weekends, well, you might lose your access to this, that, and the other. And it's like you just can't do that.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Let's see. What time are we at? We are at 10:43. You guys ready to talk about the nation of Jamaica?
I am.
You
Yeah.
are? All
Yes.
right. Let me hide the chat.
I mean, I think any conversation of Jamaica begins and ends with bobsledding.
No.
I loved that.
Right.
I'm just the right age for that to be super cool.
All right. So this is Jamaica, island nation in the Caribbean, South beautiful nation, and about 2.8 million people. Um, used to be a British and Spanish at one point. But it's a beautiful flag. Look at that thing. Great colors, black, red, and or black, yellow, and green. Almost Pan African colors. Usually they have red and Pan African colors, but very much related to Africa within their politics and all that stuff. Um, uh, the country is about 92% African American, or not African American, black, um, African descent. And of course, with these beaches and the stunning vistas of the country, it's a tourist haven. Most of the money comes off of tourism. Still, a lot of money comes off of agriculture. So that is Jamaica and its national anthem. I'll hide that and bring us back here. All right. So talk a little bit about Jamaica and give you some of its history and talk about that. So Jamaica is a Westminster-style parliamentary democracy. They have a lower and more powerful House of Representatives with 63 members. There are 63 single-member districts with first past the post voting, just like England. Upon election, their mandate runs for 5 years, but the government can be forced into early elections due to either the loss of confidence in the government. So talk about votes of confidence within governments. That can trigger an election, or the government can call it an early election if they think that they have a advantage, or think that perhaps they want to test. There's something big coming up that they want to test what their strength is. They can call an election early. The last election was in 2020. Let's talk about the Senate. The Senate is chosen by the Governor General. Jamaica is a Commonwealth nation, which means it has the head of state is the King of England, and the Governor General is the representative on the island of the monarchy. So he, in essence, chooses the senators of the upper house of Parliament, but they're nominated by the parties that are represented in Parliament. There are two main parties, 21 members of the Senate. It's broken down that 13 members are of the government party, the official government party, and 8 members are nominated by the official opposition. The current prime minister is a guy named Andrew Holness. He's in his 3rd term. He had a first term that was he kind of took over over from another prime minister. Ran an election in I think 2012 and lost the election there. Was reelected in 2016 and then had a 3rd election in 2020. Like the Senate, the Governor General actually invites the prime minister to form government, the head leader of the party to form government. So Holness has done that 3 times. And he currently has, I think, I had the numbers here. It was like a 49 of the 63 seats are with his party, which is the Jamaica Labor Party. There are 2 main parties there. It is the Jamaica Labor Party and the People's National Party. The Jamaica Labor Party, despite what it's called, is actually a right conservative party. In the country. So did have its founding in roots in the labor movement, but has been seen more as a conservative, more westward oriented party. The other party is the People's National Party, and they are a social democratic socialism party. They have been in the past oriented to places like Cuba, not quite the Soviet Union, but Cuba was a partner of theirs during some turbulent times. And so the United States tends to like Jamaica much more when the LP is their main party rather than the People's National Party. So Holness is a member of the Labor Party and is the prime minister. His mandate will run until 2025 or earlier if he decides he wants to have an early election. Other than that, we talked about their tourism as being their major point of economy.
You have to talk about Rastafarianism.
We will in a second.
Okay.
The economy is kind of diverse, but it generally runs on tourism. A lot of people are employed in the tourism industry. There's also an agricultural sector, and there's also a manufacturing sector that works there. But tourism is the main driver. But yeah. So most of the people, and it's surprisingly small, the community of Rastafarians, but most of the people are Protestant and or Roman Catholic. There's Protestant Catholic there on the island. Only 1.1% of the people of Jamaica are listed as Rastafarians. So Rastafarian is a religion that is based on Africans returning to Africa, with Haile Selassie as seen as at the time when it was formed, as a living messiah.
Emperor of Ethiopia.
Yeah, Haile Selassie was the last emperor of Ethiopia um, uh, before he was exiled and died. I think in the 80s, I believe, is when he passed away. But Haile Selassie was seen as this, godlike king, and that eventually it would bring back to Africa. And it's a really, kind of cool religion in that, they have, beliefs that, especially the way they keep their hair with dreadlocks, and the men for dreadlocks. And
which ties in with AJ's hat.
yeah, yeah, very nice. And they do not like Western medicine. Um,
No.
and they do have rights of cannabis, and but they don't eat pork or shellfish or milk. So I mean that's kind of where they're at. It's kind of a mix of some of the rules of Judaism and Islam, and um, uh,
My favorite Jamaica story is the story of Port Royal and the earthquake. So Port Royal was a large city in the eastern part of Jamaica,
mhm.
founded in 1494. So if you think about it, right? That's just 2 years after Columbus. That is an old city. It spent a lot of time working up a reputation to be called the evilest city in the world.
Oh yeah, lots of
Uh,
debauchery,
Lots of debauchery,
our kind of
trade
town.
in all sorts of unspeakable things, etc. And finally, somebody had enough, and a 7.5 magnitude earthquake hit Port Royal, and 2/3 of it fell into the ocean, just
Just
like that.
yeah.
Uh, but if you like to scuba dive or snorkel, it's now a fantastic place to go, and you see all these amazing things, underwater ruins,
Oh,
stuff
that's
like
crazy.
that, and a lot of other cool stuff there. Henry Morgan, the famous pirate. Those of you who are familiar with Captain Morgan's rum, was based out of Jamaica, and it's a wonderful place to visit.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
if you're thinking about going, beautiful beaches, and uh, a well uh, a well run and relatively safe place to go too. There are a lot of places that are beautiful, but not necessarily super safe. Jamaica is pretty safe.
It does have issues with crime from time to time, and it kind of follows
Yeah,
the economic ebbs and
it's
flows.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's not like New York,
yeah,
but
yeah. And James, you can go to Jamaica and eat pork. That's only the Rastafarians who make up about a little over 1% of the population. So I wouldn't go to like a reggae restaurant, a Rastafarian restaurant, and order a pork slider or anything. But I think you would be able to find it elsewhere on the island. There's lots of Protestants and Catholics who are quite okay with pork. So. Um, and talking about Bob Marley, so one of the most contested elections in the history of Jamaica was the 1976 election. The incumbent was a guy named Michael Manley, who was the prime minister there for a long time. Um, Violence throughout the entire election campaign. It got so bad. I think over 200 people were killed due to shootings. Uh, the parties do have not non-official gangs that are attached to them. Um, so elections have turned violent in the past. And so Michael Manley was running for reelection. He was orienting the island towards Cuba. He was part of the People's Party, National Party. And the violence had gotten so bad, they were going to do a concert um, it was called the Smile Concert. And Bob Marley was supposed to sing at the concert. And for some reason, the Labor Party saw that as a tacit endorsement of Michael Manley. Uh, no, Bob Marley stayed completely out of the election. He was like, I'm not here to endorse anybody. I don't want to endorse. I'm going to use my platform to do that. I'm just here to get peace. And so 2 days before the concert, uh, people allegedly linked to the Labor Party burst into his house, shot him, shot his wife, a band member, and another person involved in the Wailers. None of them were really that serious of gunshot wounds, like just grazed. Um, 2 days later, Bob Marley participated in the Smile concert. Um, a lot of the music that he released at the time talked about the struggle and the violence. No woman, no cry. Of course, we talked about the instability and everything like that. Um, that honestly, that story just kind of encapsulates what's going on. What a cool cat that Bob Marley was. Like, he was just an awesome dude. If you
Some
don't
of the
know the,
music is unbelievable.
oh my
That
god,
back catalog.
yeah,
I mean, I think everybody owns the
One
greatest hits.
Love,
Yeah.
yeah, One Love,
Mhm.
Greg, No Woman, No Cry.
Uh,
Everybody knows those. I Shot the Sheriff, but yeah,
Redemption
there's some,
song.
yeah,
Redemption song is the ultimate libertarian song, right? These songs of freedom.
yeah,
Uh, yep. Have
yeah.
no fear of atomic energy, for none of them can stop the times. How long will they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Ooh, some say it's just a part of it. We got to fulfill the book.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
Yay.
I
yeah, amazing. People should and the spin-offs. Rita Marley went off and did an album.
mhm.
Ziggy as well.
Yep,
Uh, and those are certainly worth listening to. But Bob Marley's catalog is just amazing.
yeah, yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
So, do you know who, let's see, Lee Scratch Perry? Do you know who that is?
I don't.
I do not know.
He is one of the I guess creators of reggae as we know it. Because reggae, of course, didn't start out as reggae. It started out as ska and whatnot, and it's kind of progressed. And I learned this because I was like, okay, between Reggae Fest and Jamaica this weekend, I kind of feel like I should know something. Uh, so I did some research. He is was one of the most famous producers in Jamaica. He worked with everybody. He worked with Bob Marley. He worked with Peter Tosh. Paul motherfucking McCartney went to
Nice.
record with this guy. Yeah, Paul McCartney went to the ghetto to record with this man. Now, this man, he was very eccentric. So if should you happen to look him up, Scratch Perry, he did burn down his own studio in 1979 because there were demons, and he needed to like
Nice.
cleanse that because all of the demons of the studio were causing problems for his brethren in Jamaica. So he burned the whole fucking thing down, started over.
Mhm.
At and I mean he is the success story out of Jamaica. He he died with a worth of like $3 million or something, which is unheard of money because reggae, it came from the ghettos of Jamaica. You'll notice reggae, it starts with the beat, and Scratch always started with the beat. His studio was so original, he would start with the drums. And the reason you start with the drums is because even if you pour, you can beat on something. You don't have
Yeah.
to have strings, you don't have to have anything. You can turn your mama's dish tub over, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So you start with the beat and you get that right. And he would like that. Okay, okay, yeah, that sounds good. Now let's start with the rhythm. Let's start with the rhythm. And he's going around and he's starting each person. And he doesn't start recording until everybody is exactly where he thinks they should be. The balance has to be there, right? It's fascinating. I watched this documentary, it just blew my mind. So
That's pretty
the
cool.
poor drummer over here doing his shit for fucking ever while the rest of these motherfuckers are getting it
oh
together, right? And I feel terrible for him because if you ever notice, drummers, best arms ever, right?
yeah.
So that was a girl thing. Sorry, my bad. But no, this drummer over here, he's just doing it for all he's worth. Most talented guy in the room right there. And then he starts recording. Sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes it was 25 minutes. But he never recorded anything he didn't mean to. And the reason why is they were broke. They couldn't record twice. It had to be perfect so that they could record it and go on because they couldn't do it twice. I was just like, when I heard that, some of the recordings that we hear, they did that on the one take. Who knows how long those drummers were playing? when you listen to the beats of those songs by Bob Marley, just be like, dude, does he sound tired? Because like he's been going forever by the time they got it together. So
Yeah,
anyway, there's that story. That's my Jamaica contribution.
that's awesome.
Um,
I agree on drummers being the probably the most fit of all of the members of the
my
band.
dad was a
Just
drummer,
because,
so I'm a little biased
yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But like,
I asked ChatGPT to give me a Jamaican joke,
Uh-oh.
and it said, "Why are there no lazy people in Jamaica? Because they're always Jamaican something." That's ChatGPT. That's
pretty
not me.
good.
It's a Chat GPT joke. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So Bob Marley did save my life. Do you want to hear that story?
yes,
Yes, we
yes.
do.
So Rastafarians, they're not big fans of Western medicine. So Bob Marley played soccer. For the sports fans in the audience, um, he played soccer and he injured his big toe. And he went to the doctor, and they were like, "So this isn't just an injury from the soccer ball. There is melanoma in your toe, and we need to amputate to save your life." They don't do that. They don't do amputation. Now, I got into Bob Marley when I was 13, 14 years old. And I'm really not positive what got me there. But I also loved him so much that he was one of my projects in high school. So I knew exactly what killed Bob Marley. I knew that it started at his toe. So fast forward like 20 years, I get a freckle underneath one of my toenails and I watch it
Wow.
and I take pictures for like 6 months and I go to the dermatologist and I'm like, Bob Marley, Bob Marley. And he goes, "You know that story?" And I was like, "I do know that story." And so they clean, took off the toenail, like scraped all of that gone, and it was precancerous.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So Bob Marley
Learn.
saved my life.
Yeah, learn from other people's mistakes.
That is
But I mean,
definitely the way to get through life.
yeah, yeah. Janice is posting some interesting stuff about the first people to wear dreads were probably cavemen, or at least within the Indus Valley. The ancient Hindu scriptures talk about it, the Vedas, which is interesting. I mean, I do know that uh, some of the religious groups over there, specifically the Sikhs, have their hair wrapped up. Um, but I'm not sure I would call that a dreadlock. Maybe they do it. I guess that's cool. To children wear their hair in dreadlocks and cover their head and hair when outside of the home and or public because it's a form of religious expression and practice. Whoa, um, amongst the Rastafarian community, and that it's I lost the comment. There we go. And a theistic Rastafarian cite Old Testament scripture on their claim. So cool.
Yeah,
Um,
I should say Vikings also wore dreadlocks. Now,
I
did
saw
they
a lot of
learn it from
dreadlocks this
somewhere else?
weekend.
Yep,
nice. All right, y'all ready for the news quiz?
I'm ready.
Oh, we'll see. I've been in a reggae fest. I don't know shit anymore. What is that quote? I don't know shit about fuck. That's about where I'm at.
nice. What am I doing? Oh, I always hit the wrong button when I'm doing this. Okay, let's do our context clues for the CNN News Quiz of the week. Popping up here, we see the name Twitter being taken down, so we'll now get a question about X, the
Yeah,
Barbie movie,
Yay.
and I think the Paris Olympics. I saw a story about the Paris Olympics this week that they're
Isn't
probably
Dolly
referencing.
Parton?
What's that?
Isn't Dolly Parton supposed to be at the Paris Olympics?
I mean, she should be everywhere. So I mean,
I feel like there was something specific about that, though.
All right, question number one. Elon Musk replaced Twitter's iconic bird logo with which letter? And we all know that it is X. Twitter is now X. I saw a comment today from David Holman saying, if you are now banned from Twitter, does that mean that you are excommunicated?
That is hilarious.
That's good stuff right there. That's
Yeah.
quality
Good
entertainment.
stuff.
Yeah. I just want to say though that it's silly, right? I mean,
Oh yeah.
there's no reason. And Twitter was actually a pretty good word. Do you still call it a tweet now?
No, it's
call-
he removed the button that says tweet and it's now post. Which I mean,
It's funny. Now's the time to roll
waste.
out. Fucking Mastodon should blow up.
Something's got to blow up. I mean, a lot of people went to Threads initially. I think people just don't. It would be nice if somebody came out and had more of an explainer on what Threads is and what you need to do with Threads.
But
I think that's what it is. People got it and they were like, okay.
well, so I mean, the thing is that Threads is part of the Fediverse. We talked about this last time, and so I mean, Threads fine, run by Microsoft, but why not go with your own Mastodon server? Because that's also part of the Fediverse. Chances are pretty good your favorite social organization has a Mastodon server. Fuck, we should set one up for political deep dive. And then
all kinds of cat videos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then share those things around and.
Well, I can tell you why they did it. I mean, it's all money. I mean, they're going to try and monetize this somehow, and if it's on the Mastodon side, I don't know that they feel like they control the profit making abilities enough.
Oh, Twitter?
No. Threads.
Oh, Threads. Yeah.
All right, question number 2. Which state was sued by the Justice Department this week over construction of a barrier along the U.S.-Mexico border?
Vermont. That's why it was such a surprising move.
Actually, I can't. It just blows my mind how many people in West Virginia politics talk about the border. Like we have
you guys
minuscule fraction of laborers here in West Virginia, and we are thousands of miles away from the goddamn border.
Well, I was going to say, you guys are one of there's only 14 states where the 200-mile radius that a border patrol can search you without a warrant, etc.
Oh, we're in the Eastern Panhandle. You can still get hit with it because we're close enough to the
Canada.
No, not Canada, because it's also within the American.
Oh, right. You could get to the Chesapeake.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, but I mean that's really just the Eastern Panhandle. Most of the state is excluded in there. So, but yeah, it was Texas. Texas is constructing this floating barrier.
Now, the one thing I will say about that is that I do kind of think that it's not the federal government's business. They shouldn't build this, but the government gets the right to do a lot of stuff. It's specifically labeled in the Constitution. But Texas, the states get the right to do a lot of stuff too. They want to build a wall. I don't see why they can't.
I mean, I don't like this idea. I don't like what Texas has been doing. I think trampling on people's property rights at the border is complete bullshit.
Seizing people's property with eminent domain, etc. Yep. I agree. Terrible.
Yeah. But Justice Department of Texas to force the removal of floating barriers on the Rio Grande, which Greg Abbott is argued is intended to deter migrants crossing into the state from Mexico.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I've noticed a disturbing number of red states just seem to spend an awful lot of time getting sued. Does anyone else notice that? Tennessee's gotten sued like 27 times this year or some shit. And Texas is like almost constant.
Yeah, I'll push back on that a little bit. Like Massachusetts is a super blue state. We get sued all the time, but for different stuff, like business regulations and restrictions on like right now in Colorado, which I think we'd have to call used to be purple. It's pretty blue now.
Yeah.
There's a lawsuit brewing over new taxes, things like that. So it's different stuff. Red states get sued over treating people like shit.
Yeah.
Human rights issues. That's what's wrong
Exactly.
with the red state.
Exactly.
Thank you. That's
Blue
kind of
states
what I was wondering.
get stuff on money. Yeah.
Yeah, blue states get sued over authoritarian government. Well, actually, maybe it's the same thing. It's just
depending on is your pocket or your rights. So
right.
Yeah. Question number 3: which movie currently holds the top spot on worldwide box office charts?
I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Do they play that? Do they play that song in the movie?
No idea.
I have not seen the movie.
I haven't seen it yet either.
I'm sure my wife's seen it, so she
I'm
would tell.
so excited about it, though. So
AJ, do you have like a Barbie outfit that you would wear to go?
Are you asking me to wear a Barbie outfit, Dan? Have we reached that level?
I would definitely do that.
I will absolutely cosplay some motherfucking Barbie, dude.
Well, the thing that has impressed me the most is the number of my friends who went to see it in the first 2 or 3 weeks and posed for pictures and had the pink and gold ensemble so that they could either be in the box or whatever it was, so that they could dress the Barbie part.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have enough pink, but I could definitely pull off like a black and white with a fabulous big hat.
Okay. I'm sure you would look fantastic.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was at the mall, I think the night it opened, because there was nothing but teenage girls there in pink outfits. And I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, oh, it's the Barbie movie.
I mean, I like 2 things about it. First of all, I like the movie, etc., all that stuff back. But I also love the fact that it's making conservative people's heads explode.
I know.
I love how it's campy.
The only way they can make it any worse is throw some fucking M&Ms in it. Like, I'm so excited. I'm so happy. It's just the best.
Thinking about the fact that, there are so many people who are upset because I guess there's some feminist messaging, there are LGBTQ characters, and I don't know what it is, but it's just, I'm very excited they did it right. And especially because, it's sort of a little bit of a payback because, let's be honest, Barbie was for a long time an unrealistic expectation of what a woman's body should look like.
Oh, yeah.
Body, yes. But she also told us we could be like anything we wanted to.
Yeah. Still to an extent is rather unrealistic, but it's toned down a little bit.
Right.
But 155 million domestically is amazing. 337 million globally. Absolutely the biggest movie since before the pandemic, I would say.
No way it's bigger than Maverick. That thing was a blockbuster.
I don't know.
All right, let's look it up.
I mean, also factor in that it's only been 2 weeks and Maverick's kind of run its course. So
Maverick did 248 million in its opening weekend. So
wow.
That's domestic.
Wow, that's impressive. I didn't think that Maverick did that well. I mean, I thought I did well. I didn't think it would do that well.
Steven Spielberg said to Tom Cruise, "You saved the movie industry," after it came out. Which I will say, I'm going to see Barbie, but man, Maverick's excellent too.
All right. Question number 4: which grocery store chain recalled 2 types of cookies over concerns they may contain rocks?
I know this.
I know it too. Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, Costco, or Safeway?
Trader Joe.
Yes, Janice.
But now I swallow it.
The answer as well. Trader Joe's. Yeah. How do you get rocks?
Well, You get rocks in beans. Like I would say that that's happened to me 2 or 3 times in my life, and they tell you on the package for those of
I
you who
go
buy
through
dried beans. Yeah, just because a small
Yeah,
rock
you
looks
gotta.
like a bean.
them.
Um, but I agree, it's very hard. My suspicion is probably sabotage.
Could be.
I mean,
I mean, if they
almonds.
were really wanted to sabotage, though, they would have to go after the put some rocks in that cookie butter.
Mm,
That's where they have to sabotage.
what is cookie butter? I mean, I like the sound of it.
It's 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 kind of like a peanut butter made with Biscoff, crushed up Biscoff cookies, and they're
Interesting.
amazing. It's
I
damn
I
uh,
good
think I
stuff.
just
I
Crack.
I learned how to make the Ted Lasso shortbread the other day,
Oh yeah.
and that stuff is first of all, it's easy as shit, which is awesome. It's it's so easy. I can tell you the recipe: 2 sticks of butter, uh, tablespoon of kosher salt, teaspoon of vanilla, and mix it all up, and then 2 cups of flour and 2/3 cups of sugar, and then just bake. And it's unbelievable. So
Huh.
easy.
Interesting. Yeah, two types of cookies stating they may contain foreign material rocks.
Yeah.
That's gotta. I mean, that's gotta you bite into a cookie, or you're ready to enjoy a cookie, and you bust out a tooth.
Yeah.
No
Be
bueno.
brutal. No bueno.
All right. Quiet preparations are underway for the 2024 Olympics. Where will the games be held?
I'm guessing Paris because we said it earlier.
Yeah.
I said it earlier. It is Paris.
Let
Uh,
me point out that was the Olympics that Boston rejected.
yeah, yeah.
It was
Um,
Boston had actually won the bid, and the people refused to sign off. And this is just a fascinating thing because it's a blue state. You think they'd be all right with the big government stuff, but part of what you do when you agree to host the Olympics is to say that whatever else the Olympic Committee says you're going to have to build, you agree to build it and
yep.
tax the
Hmm.
people to pay for it. And Boston's
Hmm.
like, yeah, we're taxed enough already. And the argument was for Boston, right? I mean, Boston's got 8 or 9 major colleges. They've got the venues, they can host everything,
Oh yeah.
modern public transportation system, all that stuff. And so they're like, yeah, we're not really building anything else. The IOC was, oh, yes, you are. And Boston's like, you can take that Olympics and shove it up your Paris.
Yeah. Um, but the cool thing is, I heard that they're going to be cleaning the river Seine and allowing people to swim in. I guess maybe some of the swimming
What?
events are going to happen there. First time in 100 years that people will be allowed to swim in the Seine River.
Same.
Seine.
Yeah. That's crazy. Boy, I'll believe it when I see it. What would be nice though is if they can have Notre Dame at least opened a little bit when the Olympics come to town, because that was certainly
Yeah.
like, I mean, I know that for me, like when Notre Dame burned, that was a hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah. That was a sad story. Question number 6. President Joe Biden's dog Commander has been involved in several biting incidents. According to the U.S. Secret Service, which breed of dog is Commander? A German Shepherd, Golden Doodle, a Border Collie, or a Siberian Husky? I think he's a Golden Doodle.
I mean, so first of all, the president wouldn't own a dog with a foreign name, so it can't be German Shepherd or Siberian Husky.
Yeah.
And Democrat Democrats are against the borders, so it's got to be a golden doodle.
Got to be a Golden Doodle.
That's just
Although it
like
kind of looks like a Border Collie, the brown and black. And
it's not a border collie. It would be cruel to keep a border collie. Those dogs have to be out.
so Janice says Golden Doodle. James says German. Yeah, I'm going to go with my first guess and say it's a Golden Doodle.
I agree.
No, it's a
What was
German
it?
Shepherd. No wonder it's
Wow.
biting.
Yeah. 22 months. That is too big. This is something like I don't care about most of the shit that Biden pulls, but if you're going to be a bad pet owner, you shouldn't have a big dog that wants to go out and be taken out and run around and stuff like that. You're going to ask other people to do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the Obamas had a dog, but they had kids that played with the dog.
Yeah.
In fact, as I recall, that was part of the deal. If Obama won, was that he was going to get them a puppy,
Yep.
which he
It
did.
was.
And there have been a few other famous White House dogs. I guess
Yeah.
Checkers doesn't count.
Bush had the dog that would swing around on his ears that
Yep.
aggravated the shit out of me.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
All right,
I mean,
so we got that one wrong.
You're making the Secret Service take out a dog that's hyper as shit.
Yeah.
Out onto the lawn of the White House. That's just no good.
Yeah.
All right. It's question number 7. 3 retired U.S. military veterans testified Wednesday at a House hearing on unidentified anomalous phenomena, commonly known as UFOs. Around how many UFO cases is the government tracking? 170, 220, 430, or 650?
I hate these ones where they give us like a number.
Yeah. I think it's 650, but
Yeah.
I feel like it's the biggest number.
I would have said 420 if it were up there, but
yeah,
it's not.
Like
Let-
nice.
Let's go 650.
650. Yes.
Yeah, because
So let's talk about this.
it's a big deal.
It's a massive deal in that the government is like, okay, let's talk about this. And the first thing my spidey senses went off was like,
Why are they telling us?
what are they trying to distract us from?
Right.
'Cause,
Mhm.
I mean, like, why are you going to let us know that Independence Day may be coming? So,
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting. So we have, at least Dave and I have a mutual friend, AJ. I don't know if you know Dr. Joe Buckman, but
Yeah.
he is a strong advocate for belief in aliens having contacted the Earth, and in fact, part of his campaign is, and he's running for Congress in Utah too, is based on the fact he's like the alien technology that powered a spaceship to get to Earth from so far away is in Roswell or Area 51. And the government is keeping that hidden because essentially it ruins the oil business for forever.
Well, I thought one of the interesting things that they talked about here, and there wasn't like there was a lot of supposition, and there was a lot of I can't really tell you
Yeah.
type talk in this. But the fact that he mentioned interdimensional, which to me I think is the rather than a ship rocketing over the speed of light,
Right.
at warp speed, doesn't really make sense to me as vast as the universe is. But interdimensional travel, I think, makes a whole lot more sense.
Well, and the middle guy, the guy with the red tie,
Yeah.
said that that life forms, biologicals, had come to the Earth from extraterrestrial biologicals have been on the Earth.
And then the congressman was like, human? Like, really, dude?
Yeah.
Oh, are you talking about Tim Burchett from Tennessee? That one?
Is that the guy in the middle?
It was the lady
The
from
woman, Rachel. I can't remember what her name was.
Yeah, she's in Florida, I think.
Yeah.
She was asking if it was human.
And
like,
interestingly enough, she's in a big scandal now herself, right?
What'd she do?
Is she?
She is young and single and ready to mingle,
Nice.
and has been reprimanded by party leadership for doing that.
Oh, Lord.
For dating?
Yes.
Well, hopefully, keep her away from Matt Getz. Jeez.
Yep.
I think she's probably a little bit too old, at least for his stuff.
God.
He went to the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 8. At least 12 people were injured when a crane collapsed this week. In which major city? This one was kind of wild if you watch the video of it collapsing. But it was in New York City.
It was in New York City.
the thing came down and smacked another building as it went down. I didn't even hear what happened to that building or what they're doing with the other building, but 12 people were injured. The crane operator was lifting about 16 tons of concrete, and then the crane caught fire, and that caused the arm of the crane to separate from the main cab of the crane and send it crashing to the ground of the city. All right, question number 9. Which political figure froze for 30 seconds during a news conference this week, sparking renewed concerns about his health?
Does he look like a turtle?
He does look like
Don't insult turtles that way.
Was he trying to pull his head back inside the shell?
Oh my Lord, that was.
One of the funniest things I saw this week was, we were talking about that on a group, a Facebook group, and somebody posted a picture that said, "These animals ain't shit." And then 30 minutes later, Senator McConnell just standing there looking like that. I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So Mitch McConnell just went somewhere. Some
They have
people said,
confirmed it was a stroke.
did they confirm it was a stroke?
I saw a story earlier today, and I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Well, somebody said that a doctor that worked in the Bush White House had said that he thought it was a seizure that was brought on by his TBI. Earlier this year, he fell at a hotel,
Right.
Got a concussion.
TBI means traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
For the audience.
Sorry, that's my VA work there. Traumatic brain injury, concussion, fractured ribs, and some other stuff. And he was out of work for a while, and then came back. And this is, this is what happens when you have octogenarians and up as your leadership. I mean, this
100%.
is stuff. I mean, look at the shit that's happening to Dianne Feinstein. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, those people didn't see that footage. She was sitting there, and it was her turn to vote. They asked her to vote, and she started making a speech, apparently not knowing where she was or what she's supposed to do. And finally, an aide said to her, "Just say I." I.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got to go. I mean, she's got to go. Just resign your seat.
Age limits or neuro exams or competency tests or something, because these they're literally controlling other people's lives. Like they have to pass another, a vision test and driver's test when you get to a certain age. They're much more strict with it just to drive a fucking car, but to run the country, shit. What does it matter, right?
Like last week, we talked about the Vatican and the Cardinals. Once you get to 80 years old, you can't vote in for the selection of a pope, which makes sense because you're making a choice for a pope that could serve for a number of years and impact the worldwide Catholic Church. When it's not going to impact you for a whole lot longer, so it makes sense. All right, which question number 10, final one for a 9 out of 10. This week, which bizarre limited edition flavor did Skittles debut this week?
Steak flavor.
Mustard, mayonnaise, ketchup, or relish. I'm going to say probably mustard with the yellow.
It's interesting. I would guess ketchup, just because there's so much sugar in ketchup anyway. I don't know, though.
Anybody in the audience have any clue? We got ketchup from James.
With all the yellow.
Janice says mustard. All right.
Let's go mustard.
Let's go moose turds.
Oh.
That's just good.
Nice job.
One of my favorite things I saw this week is the way to properly pronounce tequila. Young lady had received a shot and thought it was a lemon drop. She shot it and it was tequila. And she was like, I thought it was a lemon shot. I didn't think it was tequila. There definitely is a dry heave in the middle of the pronunciation of tequila.
How do we do?
We did 9 out of 10.
All right. Hey,
I sent you a perfect week.
Dave, I sent you a link. Let me send it in the private chat. And you should, while you're still sharing your screen, pop this one up. That's the story I was talking about, and it's pretty funny.
Nancy Mace.
Yes. She was the congressman who was leading the interrogations. Conservatives are furious that Nancy Mace has premarital sex. She mentioned
I'm sorry.
exactly. She mentioned
Under his eye, motherfucker. Jesus.
at the national prayer breakfast that she decided not to have a quickie in the morning with her fiance so that she could be at the prayer breakfast. People lost
I
their
mean,
shit. Well,
stop it.
Republicans lost their shit.
Yeah, and they're Republicans.
I mean, the
Exactly.
Republicans, they lose their shit over
Yep.
everything.
I swear,
You mean a
man.
woman's reading a book? No way.
She getting her
As
some
long as
book
they're not
learning.
reading. If they're reading, that's a problem.
Dude, oh my
I
gosh.
swear.
Oh,
Yeah,
being
very strange.
surrounded here has just been crazy. Watching all of the
There we go.
Republicans and conservatives getting more and more angry over nothing, nothing that affects them at all. Like I just I don't understand.
I mean,
And
I might have
there
kept
are
it.
teachers that are suing Tennessee now over the vagueness of a law over what they're allowed to teach. They're like, so what are we wait, or what are we allowed to say now? Because they have left it so vague and
Mhm.
open to interpretation so that they
I,
can twist it that teachers are like, sorry, you need to clarify that for me. Sorry.
yeah, I did see that a federal judge did put a halt on a law in Arkansas that would allow people to sue or the state to sue and jail librarians over the content of books in their libraries. So
Mm,
thankfully that's
That got
been
overturned. Yeah.
it's over. Well, I don't know if it's a stay or overturned, but yeah, at least they've got a ruling on that. It's going to move up. Lord knows what this clown car of a Supreme Court is going to rule on it, but
what the schools in Texas that are firing the librarians and turning the libraries into detention centers for the lower income
the
neighborhoods.
the,
Like
the
the they're
school to
just
prison
not really
pipeline.
playing anymore. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're just training them for the future. I my mind is absolutely blown. This is not where I saw us going growing up in the 90s. This is not where this is insanity to me.
yeah, it's definitely a backlash, and looking at what's going on in this world is it definitely feels like there is we're retreating to our borders. We're retreating. I mean, there's a story that came out this week, and it's the Schengen zone where people can travel without visa, as far as Americans could freely travel throughout Europe without securing a visa and all that stuff. That's ending sometime early in 2024. And it's in response to the United States did the same thing to those countries after 9/11. So it's just their response, but it feels like the world is splitting apart again, and of course, in the rise of nationalism and all this stuff, it a lot of it feels to me like we're kind of in the interwar period of back in the 30s, and we're just waiting for the shoes to drop wherever they drop. And I don't know that the United States is going to be on the good guy side this time.
Doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, so take with that what you will. Just know that if you need to flee the United States, it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But
Don't flee by the traditional methods. If you need to flee, don't tell anybody and just head north.
yeah,
Once you
head to
get to
Canada.
Canada, nobody's going to care.
Head
Where
to Canada. You can
where
go anywhere. Yeah.
And
where can
like
you
you
sell
can
a
look on
kidney quickly?
exactly. You can look on Google Maps, and Google Maps will show you where you can illegally cross the border into Canada.
Oh yeah. And
Easy cheesy.
it's not even that hard to get into Canada. I mean, you can. I mean, I
there's
guess if shit hits the fan.
there's a place up by International Falls where one side of the street is Canada and the other side is the United States.
Oh yeah. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I mean it's relatively easy to get in Canada. They've kind of locked down some of that stuff recently, but it's also a massive border. You know, if you're in the West, it's very easy to get across the Canadian border because you just walk across a farm and it's there. You know, but you know, if you're wherever you're at in the United States, always have a plan for what happens if the things go bad. Know where your closest exit point on this country is. Could be south of you into Mexico. Could be north of you into Canada. For most of us here on the East Coast,
Now,
north into Canada.
that's interesting, Dave. Do you and your partner have a disaster preparedness
Mm-hmm.
plan?
Yep.
What do you mind sharing, like what it involves? Because you work in DC, which is potentially, a target for some bad shit.
Yeah. I mean, like if it's nuclear war, like I'm just gonna.
You're going to
There's
go
no.
outside and inhale deeply.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna go down to the mall and stick a hot dog on a stick and just yell, "Come on!" You know, it's like that's my. There's no way if nuclear war was to come, there is no way to get out of DC.
Yeah,
Like that, it's hard to get out of DC on a good day. So if everybody hops onto 270, there's just no way of getting it's done.
yeah,
Um, but if we're here, and I've talked about this before with her, that if we notice that things are going downhill precipitously,
yep,
and we haven't had like martial law declared, but you can see it, the writing on the wall. We're going to Canada.
yeah,
We're heading up to Detroit and heading across in Windsor, and just we're going out for to say hi
yeah.
to the Canadians, eat some poutine, and then just stay because
Our nuclear war plan is, we have a bug out bag, and we would head to one of the yacht clubs around here or harbors or whatever and take a sailboat.
yeah.
Uh, but anything else, like if it looks like the government's going crazy, shit like that, well, we actually haven't thought that one through. But I'll also tell people, if you have a bug out plan, it's no good if you don't know what your communications plans are. So we keep a walkie talkie in the glove box with separate batteries with and it says our strategy on it. We
Yeah.
tune to a certain channel every hour on the hour, and try to broadcast and receive for 5 minutes if somehow we get separated, etc.
Yep. And then have a point of like if something happens. I mean, and this doesn't have to be the government falling apart. I mean, it could be like a earthquake or a
Tornado, exactly,
tornado or something. Some of those points, but have a if this happens, we are meeting
Yep.
here or in this general
Yeah.
vicinity.
We're meeting at the Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, Tad's ice cream shop. We'll meet there, rendezvous,
Yep.
get some ice cream. But no,
Good.
yeah, I mean, always have a plan to when because we live in a world. I mean, there was a massive earthquake that hit the DC area back in 2011. That damaged the Capitol Dome, damaged the Washington Monument, um, and damaged buildings throughout the region. Could hit even harder. There's massive fault line in Missouri. There's earthquakes that happen in Oklahoma all the time. So it's always good to have a plan and work on those plans and especially communication. You're right. Getting walkie talkies, getting having a firm plan of where to meet if the whole communication system goes down, which is why walkie talkies are really good. So, but yeah, just have a plan. All right, y'all. We are at 11:39 in the East Coast. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm trying to get some folks lined up for the next few weeks to talk about some political stuff. So,
Do we need to pick a country?
That. What's that?
Do we need to pick a country for next week?
Oh yeah, so it's my turn
Not
to
yet.
pick a country. My turn to pick a country this time. So we are going to go. We've done Europe. We've done Caribbean and North America. So let's do Asia and let's do Kazakhstan.
All right.
Yeah, not the home of Borat. Well, we'll go over into that, but Kazakhstan is a interesting.
My sister, she's number 4 prostitute, all Kazakhstan.
My wife, we got married. that was
You only picked it so y'all could do these
no,
accents,
no,
right? That was the whole point.
no, because I'm going to go into that because it's actually really harmed Kazakhstan on the international.
They played the Borat song when Kazakhstan won a medal at the Olympics.
Yeah, they play the
Oh,
bad national anthem.
Yeah.
I don't. Was it the Olympics? I know that there's been sporting events where
Some sporting event. I
I
don't
think it
know.
was
I
like
thought
the
it was the
Asian
Olympics.
Games or something like that.
But
where-
oh my Lord.
I mean that movie. First of all, that movie is fantastic.
oh yeah,
Then we have annual running of Jew contest in the
the look on Bob Barr's face
yeah.
when he
Ah.
told him it was breast milk cheese. Yeah.
Now, have you seen his new show for All America or something?
No, I'm not.
So I was watching an Inside the Actors Studio. It was and I can't, boy, it's just fantastic. It's Sacha Baron Cohen, the tall guy from Veep. I can't remember his name for the life of me. Jim Carrey, Ted Danson, and Henry Winkler.
Okay.
Fantastic thing. But they talk about Sacha Baron Cohen's new show, where he essentially acts like somebody, and tries to get people to do things. And so, at one point, he gets a Republican congressman. He convinces him that
Yes, the Fonz.
the Fonz is Henry Winkler. He convinces this Republican congressman, though, that Muslims are offended by bare buttocks, and so if you want to get Muslims out of a room, just drop
Mhm.
trow. And so he gets the guy to do it on
No.
camera. It's fantastic.
No.
What's also interesting is that in the last episode, he arranges an interview with OJ, and he's disguised himself really well. And he tries really hard to get OJ to admit that he actually did commit the murders.
Oh
But
my gosh.
OJ does not admit it.
No.
Anyway,
OJ will never admit that. Maybe on his deathbed. I don't even think then that he'll say, I did it.
yeah, I don't think so either. All right. Good show. I'm excited to talk about Kazakhstan.
Yes. Fun country. So thanks, everyone. We will talk to everyone next week on another episode of the Political Deep Dive. Have a good one, everyone.
Everybody, please watch the Women's World Cup. It's very exciting.
Yeah, Morocco
I
won
love
their
you.
first game.
No,
The problem is 3 a.m. in the morning, United States is playing on Tuesday.
You know what? Yeah, that part's brutal. You can catch all the highlights on YouTube.
Yeah.
And that's a good way to keep up with it for right now. And, for some of these countries, it's amazing, right? Morocco is changed forever.
Yeah.
Because the women's team scored a goal in the World Cup. It's going to be so good for that country. And it's exciting to see.
Absolutely.
All right. Bye, guys.
Yep. Have a good one, y'all. And we will talk to you next week.